From crease to crease and corner to corner, Bettor Hockey Now is NHL fantasy and betting done better. Step into the dot for Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network.
Ho, 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 and welcome into our holiday edition of Bettor Hockey Now after a one-week hiatus on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTube pages. I am Adam Bernard at Pucking Thoughts on Twitter, and with me as always are my line mates here, Mr. Anthony Rivera at Ant Rivera 86 and Christopher Morais at Fuzzy Chris 91. Fellas, are we fully in the holiday spirit here just a few days out from Christmas?
I'm feeling it. I'm definitely feeling it. I've missed you guys. I feel like it's been so long since we've, gone on and done one of these, and I miss it. So I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to do this. Got a lot to discuss today.
Good to have the family back together.
It's here. It's cold. I mean, the tree is up. The stockings are there. The gifts have been bought. The malls are full. So that it is fully holiday season this year.
And of course, the NHL will take its break. They'll play their last bit of games on Saturday the 23rd, and they take the eve Monday and Tuesday off. I believe they return Wednesday the 27th. So they'll have a nice little 3-day break there so they can go and spend the time with their families. But there will be plenty of football on, both college and pro, to fill the void in that gap. So looking forward to that. But, because it is the holiday season, of course, we'll do sweater weather later, holiday themed. But we're going to throw the usual format out the window today. And we're going to, when you woke up, whatever holiday you celebrate, there was nothing better than getting that big present, whatever it was, whether it was the PlayStation or the bike under the tree or whatever it was. And then, sometimes you got like things like socks in the stocking, which, any gift is appreciated, but socks is not what we put on our lists. Some of us do. As we get older, as Chris was saying before the show. But yeah, socks not the thing you want. And then, of course, there's the typical lump of coal in the stocking. So what we're doing today is we're going to go through and we're going to give them, each of us are going to submit a player or coach that deserves one of those, each of those, a bike, a pair of socks, or multiple pairs of socks. It can be like, sometimes you get those multiple packs with like 6 of them in there. So you could do that, or a lump of coal. And then we'll do the same thing for teams. So, and then we'll do sweater weather, and then we'll go and enjoy the holidays and the hockey right before us. So where do we want to start first today, fellas? Do we want to go who's getting a bike under the tree, or who's going to get some socks, or who deserves that lump of coal? Where do we want to begin?
I think you got to start at the top. No,
Yeah,
we got
with a bike.
Get some good vibes. Get that bike. Who's getting that bike today?
All right, let's do it. Players that are coaches that deserve a bike for the holidays. Here we go. I'm going to say first for me, I got to give it to Rick Tocchet in Vancouver. He took over for Bruce Boudreau midway through last season. They traded Bo Horvat last year to take one of the top players on the team away. They don't add much besides Filip Hronek on the blue line, and now they're second in the West currently. And that's all coaching is making the difference right there. And yes, Brock Besser's having a great year. Is it a coincidence that Thatcher Demko finally put it together this year, or is that, coaching helping that too? I mean, there's a lot of ways that Rick Tocchet has had a hugely positive effect on the Vancouver Canucks. They're not a fluke. We're a few days left in the year here, and they're still up there, and they're still among the top team in the league. So, Rick, I want you to enjoy the bike that I'm going to give you for the holidays around Stanley Park in Vancouver. I've been there. It's beautiful. So enjoy riding.
Hey, I mean, that is fair. I am going to hand out as well a bike to a very deserving player for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it's not the ones that we think it is. It's going to be Willie Nylander and all the things that he has accomplished so far this year. We talk about the big four in Toronto. We talk about it. We talk about Mitch Marner. We talk about John Tavares. We talk about, Austin Matthews, all these great players. And Willie Nylander is just forgotten a little bit there. Everybody's gone and collected their paychecks. Kyle Dubas handed out money to everybody but Willie. And here he comes this year now. He has just as many points as Connor McDavid does. So if you had that on the bingo card, you can go and collect your $1 billion check. And yes, he's in a contract year. it's not shocking to see players perform in a year where they need to get paid, but this man is going to get paid, and you just back up the Burks truck and just unload, the dollar bills for him. It probably won't be in Toronto because I mean, there's so many. There's too much cap gymnastics there to happen. I don't know how Brad Treliving would make that work. But Willie Nylander is going to get paid, and rightfully so. He has earned the money that he is going to collect. So shout out to him. He has come out. He hasn't let it become a distraction. He hasn't let anything happen. We know his last contract negotiation was, went down to the last minute of the last hour that existed, but good for him. He gets a really nice bike, an 18 speed one, with the gloss finish kind of, maybe he can get like the side handles as well. Not like one of those like racing ones because he's not racing to the finish line here, but something that he can cruise and enjoy and fit his style.
Cannot risk an injury in a contract year. So no, it's got to be something safe.
Yes. Training wheels if he's okay with it. That's how far we can go.
I don't know about that. I mean, he would get chirped a ton for that. Now, I'll say this, though. I mean, I think you're just sucking up to him because he's getting a big contract. So you're getting him a gift now. So that way, down the line when he gets a big contract, like, hey, buddy, look, my car's in the shop.
It might not be $700 million worth of money, but he's going to, if he just wants to send a check this way, maybe cover, I don't know, just, 1 month of the hydro, the car payment, whatever. Or maybe if he wants to cover that for a couple of years, that's fine too. We're not picky. Gift's a gift.
Now, Ant's got a gift that I think out of all the players or teams that are getting one, I think this is the guy that'll have the weather to enjoy it the most.
Listen, fellas, the Lightning were without Andrei Vasilevsky for the beginning of the season, and somehow have found their way only 3 points out of a playoff spot in the Atlantic Division. And a lot of that is due in thanks in part to Nikita Kucherov. That is who I am giving this bike to. I got to reference back to the Fantasy Alarm hockey guide because they had him having 22 goals and 39 assists. That was the projection for him, and he's already got 22 goals, 32 assists. He's got 24 power play points. If you are drafting Nikita Kucherov, you are getting everything you wanted and then some. All the dividends are paying off here, and he's tops in a lot of fantasy categories. So Kucherov is looking good this season, and he's a huge part of why the Tampa Bay Lightning are still hanging around there. And now with Vasilevsky back, that maybe they can make their little push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that. You look at. He's so consistent with how good he is that we just it flies under the radar because for him, like this is just par for the course. But it's still, I mean, like you said, Tampa's probably further way down, closer to the Montreals. No offense to the world, without the way Kucherov played while Vasilevsky was absent. And he's still finding his footing as well.
Yeah, he is well deserving of a bike. He might need, a chauffeur for his bike, someone to take a little bit of the pressure off him a little bit. It'd be nice if, some of the other big boys there could step up. Not that they don't, but I mean, Kucherov is just at a whole other level of greatness, and we don't appreciate it as much as we should. We just kind of take it for granted a little bit.
Now, I don't remember if during our fantasy mock drafts, I don't think he went top 10 to my understanding in any of those drafts. Maybe he went top 20, definitely went, in the top 30. So you're getting really good value if you have drafted Kucherov. Definitely if you drafted him in the, mid 10s to 20s or 20s to 30s. He's your top player right now. So kudos to you if you drafted him.
Certainly getting bang for your buck there.
Absolutely.
And,
yes.
Again, Kucherov is just he's Mr. Reliable, and he's the guy down there, and especially with Stamkos potentially out the door at the end of the year, so that's going to be the guy there for a little while. So we got Rick Tocchet, we've got William Nylander, and we've got Nikita Kucherov all waking up the morning of their respective holiday and going downstairs and being like, wow, look at that. A brand new bike under the tree or whatever. But yeah, good for those guys. Now let's get to the teams that are going to get bikes here. For me, let's start with the Flyers. This was a team that we talked about early in the season. We're like, oh, is this are they for real, or is this a team that's going to fade? We all kind of thought they would fade but still be tough. But they're still sitting in the second spot in the Metro, 6 points behind the Rangers, which the way the Rangers have played, only being 6 points behind them is quite impressive. And one ahead of the Islanders, who are sitting in third. And it's not like they're the Miami Dolphins who just beat up on bad teams, like that they're bullies. You look at the wins they've got over here. They've beaten all 3 top teams in the Pacific Division and Colorado out west. So, I mean, this is not a team that, like I said, they're just taking advantage of like the Columbuses and Buffaloes of the world and padding their schedule, much like Thatcher Demko. We've, Carter Hart, dealing with some illness this week, but nonetheless has had a nice bounce back year, 9-6-1, 2.42 goals against, 919 save percentage. And also John Tortorella. As much as him and the players do deserve a lot of credit here, because we know Torts is a little rough around the edges, even if he has softened up over the last few years. But to figure out how to play for a guy like Torts and not get tired of him and find ways to have success on the ice when you were a team that people were thinking we're going to finish in the bottom, we'll say 8 in the league. I mean, this is really impressive.
Yeah, especially in that Metropolitan Division where you have the Islanders just getting hot. The Hurricanes, obviously their goaltending is in disarray, just like the Devils, but, those teams should probably be up there. And the Flyers are taking advantage of a situation that they need to. If they're going to make the playoffs, they got to win these games, and they're doing that. And good for them. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10. You mentioned Tortorella. You know Tortorella better than anyone. And what he did with the Rangers and now what he's doing with the Flyers, he's getting them to play hard, which he does for the most part. He gets them to play good defense. And the team is, sitting there, 39 points, and behind the Rangers, who have been playing otherworldly for most of the season. And this is, it's real. I like this. I like this for the Flyers. They definitely deserve a bike, in my opinion.
They do. And not even think about it for a minute. Tortorella is the coach of this hockey team, and we have not heard anything about any of his outbursts. We haven't heard him say anything that he shouldn't have. He hasn't benched a player for, some questionable reasons or to send a message or put anybody in the stands. We haven't heard a player maybe not publicly say they don't like him, but not enjoy being under him. And, like a lot of us know here, Torts is sometimes a little rough around the edges and can irritate certain players. And this is not a team either for the Flyers that have, let's say, a standout superstar from the rest. One guy leads the team and the rest just get behind him and get pulled by him. This is a team that's getting it done by committee. They go out there, they embody exactly who John Tortorella is. They work hard, they block shots, they play that boring style of hockey, and it collects wins. So yes, good for Tortorella. I don't know if he wants a bike. Maybe we'll send Larry Brooks to deliver it.
Hey, Tortorella is definitely taking over the mantra of the city. It's the city of brotherly love.
There you go. Yeah. Travis Konechny and Travis Sanheim leading the way respectively up front, and on the blue line, Sean Couturier is having a nice bounce back year. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be positive in Philly right now if you're a Philly sports fan. Maybe not so much with the Eagles as of late, but nonetheless, still good times there in Philly. So what team are you going to be, Anthony, giving a bike to this year?
Yeah, this one was pretty easy for me, maybe too easy. I went with the Boston Bruins, and, mostly because we talked about them, I think, the entire summer, especially after Patrice Bergeron retired and Krejci retired, talking about them taking a step back. We didn't say they were going to take a step back like Chris did. Chris said they were going to be out of the playoffs, out of contention. But here they are, 19-5. They're sitting at the top of the Atlantic. 44 points, and it's like they haven't missed a beat at all, and good for them. With the Maple Leafs right behind them, they might deserve more than a bike right now after the way they've been playing this season.
Maybe like a motorbike, like a race bike, like one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said what I said about the Bruins, but they have definitely. I mean, they took that personally. Clearly, they have us on, right, so they don't play team music right before or after games. They watch us,
They
and I
watch your
guess when
YouTube shorts, man.
they clearly do, or at least their fan base does, because they let me know exactly how some of they feel about the Bruins. But even like, look, even if you talk to a lot of Bruins fans, they understand. Like, they thought they would take a little bit of a step. No, none of them expected this to be where they are. Like, even the realists, the ones who take off the the Boston hat and put on the khakis, they would come out and they will say that this they were not expecting them to be where they are, and they have proven everybody wrong. They have proven that Montgomery takes a lot of credit there. I think that the way that they play, they're a good defensive team. Their goaltending is good. Their offense does what they need to do. Put the puck in the net. They contribute, but this is a team that is built from the back end out. And we've seen a lot of teams that are really successful when they do that. So you have elite goaltending, your defense is really, really strong. And then your offense just has to be, I guess, top half good. Like, if you're in the top half and you're scoring goals, you're getting it done, fine. Are the Bruins torching anybody every night? No. But they go out there, they get the job done, they win hockey games. Plain simple.
I mean, they've pretty much like picked up where they left off last year. Obviously, when they lost to the Panthers, not that spot, but the regular season. I mean, what we talked about when we came into the year, how important center depth is. And, like you said, you lose Bergeron, you lose Krejci. We came into this year with Pavel Zacha, Charlie Coyle, Morgan Geekie, and I don't even remember who the fourth line center was initially, but people didn't have high hopes for those guys to fill the void. Charlie Coyle's been excellent. Pavel Zacha's doing his thing. There's no reason to be unhappy with if you're in Boston right now with the Bruins. They're just doing what they need to do, and it wouldn't surprise me if they just coast at the top of the division pretty much the entire season, wire to wire, like they did last year.
Yeah,
And I don't even know if that's a good or bad thing, because they did that last season and it got them eliminated in the first round. So I don't want. If Boston is going to, I guess, and maybe they have a chip on their shoulder from the end of last season, but I don't want them coasting too much. And if they do coast, I do worry that a repeat of what happened is going to happen again, because you don't have Patrice Bergeron for the playoffs. You don't have Krejci for the playoffs, and those guys have a lot of playoff experience on them.
I'd be cool with them getting eliminated in the first round again. That's fine.
Me too. I can't, I'm never going to be happy for
We're not going to go that far. Good for you, but you can go home early again.
Yeah, you can go. Now, Chris, which team are you giving a bike to?
I am giving it to the New York Rangers. Unfortunately, they have done what they have needed to be done. We talk about teams that are built from the back end out. New York Rangers embody everything that is that. Look, when you can take Jonathan Quick and midway point to the year here and turn him into not just like, they've taken water and turned it into gold, not even wine. Like, this is gold. They've taken Jonathan Quick, who we have all said, if like the least amount of hockey games that he's played, the better it would be. And he's come out here and has been not only efficient, but has probably taken some starts away from Igor Sturm, which is fine, because that gives Igor quality games and it's a lot more manageable for himself, his body, and everything else. Defensively, this is a team that was without Adam Fox, and they didn't lose a beat. That's how deep they are. If you take any team and you lose a top defenseman, you're going to struggle for a little bit. But they've come out of there. They play well. Even Jacob Trouba, when he's not trying to hit dingers and home runs, he is part of that blue line. This is a team that's built well. And then offensively, I don't know what Artemi Panarin ate this summer, but he was clearly hanging out with the Connor McDavid of last year, because now all of a sudden he's shooting the puck. The one knock on Panarin is you knew he was going to pick up his points. You knew he was going to go out there and be good. I don't think anybody had him becoming this elite shooter all of a sudden, but he comes in here. Now he is shooting the puck a ton. He's scoring goals, and he's taking his game to a whole other level. And this has helped out guys like, Mika Zibanejad, maybe not the best start to his year, but it's fine. Nobody talks about it because Panarin kicks in. Chris Kreider does exactly what he needs to do, and that's fine. Vincent Trocheck has kind of grown into that second line position, and it's been absolutely fine as well. We're not really worried about Alexi Lafreniere and Kaapo Kakko, because the rest of the team is doing just that well. Blake Wheeler's come in and he's looked real good as well. So the Rangers have done a lot of good things. And even the things that are not that great, we don't even have to worry about, because if everything was working, this team would be probably better than the Boston Bruins are. They would just cruise right by everybody. They would steamroll everything. And as a Habs fan, I'm happy that they have some things that are not going well, because at least, they're not perfect. But this is a really good hockey team. They seem built for a long playoff run if they can just get in there and do it. Now they have to pull everything together, but they are a very deep hockey team, and it is very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, you look at when we came into the year, we kind of had the Rangers pegged as the third best team, maybe a step behind Carolina and New Jersey. Carolina's had their goaltending issues. New Jersey has had their issues that we'll get into at least one of them before we're done here today. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Even the most positive of Ranger fans, I don't think expected this to happen this year. Just basically taking the league by storm, being the top team in the East along with Boston. And yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it goes back to Panarin, just shooting the puck more and going in more and everybody doing their thing. And to the point about Jonathan Quick, 9-0-1, 9.26 save percentage, and a goals against, 2. I just lost it where I have it here, but not 209. So yeah, I mean, nobody thought.
Who is that man? Like, where did you come from?
I mean, yeah, two shutouts already, 2 shutouts. We haven't even flipped the calendars yet, and it's 2 shutouts. So I really hope that this is not a situation where the other shoe drops and it has to balance what he did, because that means it's going to be really bad. But there's no reason to think that Jonathan Quick cannot be a serviceable goalie. We said he would hopefully get put out there 1 out of every 5 or 6 games, but I don't see a reason that you don't rest Shesterkin and play Quick every 3 games, maybe.
Yeah, he's earned himself the opportunity to play more hockey. And like I said, I don't think that's a bad thing for Igor Shesterkin either. I think this gives him maybe some quality matchups. You don't also have to throw out Jonathan Quick against those bottom feeder teams just, to give Igor a night off. You can play him against some pretty good teams and feel confident that he's going to be able to hold his ground. So good for him, I guess. I don't know. It's Jonathan Quick, and it's 2024.
And as a Devils fan, how much, I mean, do you worry about the Rangers in the playoffs in the first round this year? Do you think that maybe we can still match up with them based on what you did last year? I mean, how do you feel as a Devils fan looking up at the Rangers?
No, I absolutely do. I mean, the goaltending is even better than it was last year. Hey, even Shesterkin in the playoffs last season played very well. I mean, that can't be taken away from him. It's just the team just couldn't keep up with the speed of the Devils. But now the Devils' defense is not great this season, and the goaltending has been even worse. It's like the Rangers exposed those 2 goalies, and they have not been the same since. And even when I thought that maybe Akira Schmid would go on a run, I said, you know what? Maybe he should be starting. He has a clunker where he gives up 5 or 6 goals. So it's just been a disappointment. The offense is still there for the Devils. It's just that the defense is not there and the goaltending is not there. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Rangers expose that again in the playoffs. And, it's possible that they could sweep them too. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. From what we have seen so far this season, the Rangers are clearly the absolute better team. And if they were to enter the playoffs today, it could possibly be a 4-game sweep. It could be 5 games. I mean, they were well on their way when they won the first 2 games last season in the playoffs. So, as much as a homer I want to be for the Devils, right now it just doesn't look great. They're just, okay.
I just love, as a Ranger fan, sitting here hearing everybody wax poetic about just how great they are this year. And yeah, I'm just going to enjoy it while I can, because I certainly don't get that from the Jets. But now we've come to the portion of the show where we're going to be handing out socks in people's stockings. And yeah, you don't put socks on the list, but you need them. They come in handy. You need a nice replenishment every year. And for me, we're going to start with players or coaches that deserve socks. I'm going to go with Alex DeBrincat in Detroit. Yeah, he leads the team in scoring, 15 goals, 13 assists. He's averaging slightly under a point per game overall. That's not bad, but the way he set the world on fire in October and has cooled off significantly in the months of November and December. He's only he did score 2 goals earlier this week, but before that he only had 2 goals in his prior 11 games. So would like to see him get back on track. And yeah, I know he misses Dylan Larkin, and Larkin's been in and out of the lineup recently, so that doesn't help. But when you're if Dylan Larkin's the guy in Detroit, and DeBrincat was brought in to be the other guy, that means you got to be consistent, and he hasn't been consistent. So the production pace is good. It just needs to be, evened out a little more, I feel like.
Sure, I guess. I mean, look, he's. I want nothing to do with the Ottawa Senators. I want somebody to fire them into the sun, because that team is just. Imagine wanting to buy that. Like, I think back to it now, like they were sold, right? And someone said, "I'll pick up the check for that." Sure. And then they were gifted a team that has a player who is basically spent it for half a year for betting on something we don't know, which, by the way, Bet99, proud partner of the NHL, and then has to deal with losing a first round pick because their former GM couldn't, or I'm guessing an intern or an assistant somewhere couldn't file paperwork correctly. And then you got to let him go, and then you got to let your coach go, and then, oh, by the way, you're at the bottom of the standings.
Cool. Hey, good move by DeBrincat getting out of there and realizing a sinking ship before
everybody looked at Alex and went, "Hey, man, like,
is he
wrong with you?" And then now jokes on everybody else as he's sipping his tea over there at Detroit, playing with his homie Patrick Kane now.
Yeah, I mean he got out on the life raft. He's already on the shore, nice and dry, while that boat is going down.
Boat's at the bottom
for sure. All right, so I got DeBrincat. I just want to see a little more consistency out of him. And who do you got who's going to be getting some socks this year?
I feel the same way about Brady Tkachuk almost, because through all of our, and I got to reference our mock drafts. This guy was going in the top 10 for most of them. He was a top 10 a draftee, and he's not been terrible. He just has been okay, and on a team that I think definitely I had a lot of high hopes for going into the season for Ottawa to at least hover around a playoff contention. They've just been awful. And if their top player and their top line is only going to give you at this point, I mean, I know he's leading the team with 14 goals, but I don't know. I just expected a whole lot more from Brady Tkachuk, and I don't, I don't see it right now. And, maybe he'll get even better as the season goes on. But right now, Ottawa is just in a whole pile of crap right now. And there was one guy that did want to buy him, Snoop Dogg. He wanted to buy the Ottawa Senators. He loves hockey so much.
Didn't Ryan Reynolds want to buy him too? As like a lifelong Sens fan? Like, yeah.
Yep.
Can't do anything right. They're Canada's like redheaded stepchild hockey team.
They don't even have of all the places, like, I haven't been to a ton of other Canadian cities where they have hockey, but man, just an arena in the middle of nowhere is definitely a vibe. There's nothing, I'm sorry, Ottawa, there's just nothing great about it.
I don't think at the beginning of this season, looking at these rosters, we thought that this team would be the worst out of the Canada teams, out of the Canadian teams. I don't think we had that pegged at all.
No, not at all. I mean, before we thought Hellebuck was going to be, before he signed, you could have made an argument for maybe them or Montreal, but yeah. Or even, I don't think nobody thought Vancouver would be the worst of the Canadian teams, maybe Calgary, but yeah. I mean, Ottawa is just another colossal disappointment. And to your point about Brady Tkachuk, 14 goals, 7 assists, 21 points at this point in the season. That's not what we're looking for there out of you. 74 penalty minutes. So if you're in a banger league, he's certainly helping you out there, leading the league in that currently. But yeah, it just, Brady Tkachuk, I have some shares of him as well, and he's not giving me what I need. And yeah, that's a good one. That's a guy that, it's a tough situation that you're in, but we need more from you. So you get
he's been okay, but considering where he was projected in fantasy drafts and where people were taking him and what people were expecting from him, it's a mild disappointment. Definitely
he was a late top 10 pick in a lot of drafts. He was going in that 8 to 12 range.
Yep. He gets one pair of socks and they're white.
Ooh.
All white. No colors, no cool stripes like the ones we got down there on the screen.
All white, one pair of socks. That's the best he can get from me.
Basic white socks. Now, who do you got? Who's getting socks for you? And are you going to give him more than just one pair of?
I will give this individual more than one. He can even pick the color. He can get a value pack. He can get some black. He can get some navy. He can get whatever
socks on the table.
If he wants, he can get the short ankle ones if he wants to wear them with the Vans, or if he wants to wear them, whatever he wants. Andre Tourigny gets whatever pair of socks he wants. If you're not sure who that is, head coach of the Arizona Coyotes, because I know we forget that the Coyotes exist. We make fun of where they play. But this is honestly, on paper, as of today, they're a wild card team. And I don't think many people saw this team as a wild card team. They went out this summer and did things, right? They went out to get Matt Dumba. They traded for Sean Durzi. This is a team that, we're just used to hitting them. They're the whipping boys that we choose. We look at the Arizona. We punch them because they're the Arizona Coyotes and they play in a college rink and nobody wants to house them. And even their social media team laughs at it. They're a little bit of a laughing stock. But on the ice, this is a really decent hockey team, and they can play and they can keep up, and they're only getting better, right? We know that this team still has 600 million draft picks in the next 3 years. So they're still stockpiling all these picks. They have, as of today, right, thanks to the good friends over at Cap Friendly, they have $4.5 million in cap space. At the deadline, that's $13 million. This is a team that if they wanted to go out for the first time, and I feel like a long time, they don't have to go out and collect every other team's bad contract that they don't want to house. Right now, they have $25 million on long-term injury reserve. 3 of those players will never play, which is Jakub Voracek, Shea Weber, and Brian Little. So, this team is housing all this money for other teams. They've collected these stockpile of picks that they could use if they wanted to add some quality to this team. And again, they went out and they've been smart. I think this is a 2-part here. Bill Armstrong can have some socks too. We'll throw him in there. Why not? Sure. This is a shared. This is an extra big Costco value pack of socks that I want Andre Tourigny to share with Bill Armstrong, because Bill Armstrong went out there and got some players and said, "Hey, now something's got to happen." And Andre Tourigny says, "No problem. Hold my eggnog. I got this." And he went out and this team is competitive. Some nights not great, but they go out there, they play well. Again, a team that has, Pavelka still finding where he is, but Connor Ingram's come in, done what he has to do. Good defensive team, right? The Coyotes don't get blown open and whipped around and punched and thrown off a cliff. They're good, and their offense can score some goals. They have players who can finish and put the puck in the net. So good on Andre Tourigny for coming in here. He's been here a minute now. He believes in the process. He's getting the results out of a really young team. So good for him.
I got some good news for the Coyotes players. It's not just your coach and your GM that's getting socks, because I'm giving you socks for Christmas, but for a lot of the reasons that Chris stated, nobody had them in a wild card spot in December. Now listen, Edmonton is surging. Minnesota has bounced back and they're moving up in the standings. Are we still going to be talking about Arizona as a playoff team come March, April? I don't know. But like Chris said, if they want to, they certainly have the currency to go out and do it and the draft capital to go and maybe make themselves a heavy hitter. But and also the other thing too, that, Connor Ingram has been quite the nice surprise for them. 12-6-0, 2.55 goals against, .919 save percentage. Clayton Keller, he's leading the team in scoring. That's what we expected. So, good on the Coyotes that everybody's getting socks, because I think everybody there deserves it.
They do. This is a team that a lot of us wanted to be. They are better as today. They are better than the Minnesota Wild, Calgary Flames, the Edmonton Oilers. Remember the team was supposed to get to the top here? This is a team that has for years just, again, when you want to move a bad contract, you get on the phone with Bill. You're like, "Hey, man, what pick do you want so you could take this long-term injury reserve contract so we never have to hear it?" They were always, the third person in the threesome and they're just there to help facilitate something else happen. That's it. They're just like, "Hey, we'll eat another 50% of this salary so you can complete something and we'll take a second round pick." And now today they get to at least have the option to show up at the trade deadline and go, "You know what? maybe I want to go out, add something, add a 6-7 defenseman, a depth winger. That they have options. Good for them.
Yeah, the
Find a
Coyotes.
barn, find a city, but good for them.
Yeah, this team definitely needed this to start the season. They're only 6 points out of a playoff spot, and to just have that hope that they can be in this for a while, whereas in maybe previous seasons, they're probably out of it already and in the Blackhawks position right now. But they're in this, and these guys like Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, you mentioned Jersey, also Valimaki, another guy on defense that I like. These are definitely guys to look out for, especially when you're trying to pick up on the waiver wire. That's what I did with them last year, and they helped out a whole lot. So this is a team that is definitely taking a next step, and they're putting together a nice roster. Whereas, like you said, they would be just taking on bad contracts, but they're playing it smart. They're doing the right moves, and making it so that maybe this is a team that doesn't get shipped off to somewhere. I don't know, in a move. Maybe at some point they find a way to stay in Arizona. I don't know if it's going to be 100%, but who knows?
The weather in Arizona is appealing, right?
Mhm.
So you don't have to think too hard to convince somebody to say, "Hey, want to come play in the desert where nobody knows really where you are? One day we'll get a home and it'll be a real NHL rink. You can collect your paycheck and nobody has to worry about it." So now that you're at least competitive for guys who want to win something, you can go there and maybe build something in Arizona.
And to your point about it being a destination, like, oh, it's the desert. Like, listen, you don't want to be in Phoenix in June, July, and August, but hopefully, if you're playing for a Stanley Cup, you'll be out of there by mid-June anyway. So, I mean, you missed, as a hockey player, you missed the hottest part of the year there. So it is a good destination. And just a little bit of a tip here, we're talking about the Coyotes. Nick Bukestad, if you're in a league that values faceoffs heavily and a banger league, he's a guy you should go out and stash and throw in there when you can. Maybe not a guy you're going to play every night on heavy nights, but definitely a guy that you like to have in there on those lighter nights. So Coyotes getting socks all around. Anthony, where are you sending socks to from Santa this year?
Tampa Bay Lightning. I talked about them earlier. They're hanging around, hovering around. Teams are allowing them to hang around. Vasilevsky's back, and I wouldn't be shocked if they make their move. But right now, they're just hanging in there. They haven't been great. They haven't been absolutely terrible. They're just right there. I actually thought, especially in the beginning of the season, that the Penguins would be better than them, and they're not. So the Lightning have definitely kept themselves like we said they should, right? We talked about in the beginning of the season. Just keep yourself afloat until Vasilevsky gets back, and they have done that. So we'll see where it goes from here, but they get to pick what socks they want. They could get. I don't know if you've ever seen those socks in Target where it's like a 20 pack of some it could be like a Star Wars, and you get like 20 different Star Wars. You open them up every day for what is it? What are those Christmas things called that you open up one every day?
Advent calendars?
An advent calendar. They
there
can
we
get an advent calendar sock box.
Oh, that's a lofty sock gift there. I mean, you're gonna make everybody else jealous. I mean, especially whoever Chris gave those basic white socks to was it Brady Kachuk?
No, that was me. He
Dude,
was giving them dress socks.
That's
So
right.
that's those dress socks can
I like that. I like it. Yeah, listen, a good pair of dress socks can go a long way.
Look, Brady gets the White Sox. That's all he's. Or the Senators don't even get socks. They have to wear their shoes barefoot.
They have to skate like Paul Coffey, barefoot.
Barefoot. Only Brady, White Sox. One pair. Make good use of them.
Yeah, for the duration of the season. If you somehow make the playoffs, we'll give you another pair for the playoffs.
And if they get holes in them, you're sticking with them.
Yeah, that's you to figure out. Yeah, don't get holes in them. Maybe you don't dry them. Maybe you don't dry them. Maybe air dry them. But yeah, nonetheless, Tampa 35 points. 9 points out of the top spot, but that's Boston. 3 points behind Toronto and Florida, right in front of them. And they didn't have their best goalie for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, so they're going to be making up more points here as we go. And yeah, Tampa is a team that they're going to be a tough one to handle throughout the rest of the season. Now, Chris, we're going back to your end north of the border for a team that deserves socks from you.
Absolutely. The whole team gets any type of socks they want. The Winnipeg Jets, a lot of us had the Winnipeg Jets not existing. We thought they would actually be bottom feeders, that they'd be rebuilding. We were convinced that Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck would be somewhere else. We thought Hellebuck would be wearing a Devils jersey. That has not happened. And instead, the Winnipeg Jets turned around and just said, hey, we're going to be, the third best team in the Central. And you're like, okay, well, that's one way to live. Right. Dallas and Colorado, no shock to anybody that they are where they are. But the Winnipeg Jets have come out. This is a team that moved on from a player who didn't want to be where he was. Pierre-Luc Dubois said, I just don't want to be here. And they accommodated him by sending him off to LA. And he's not done very well there. And in return, Gabe Vilardi and Alex Iafallo have given Winnipeg more than I think a lot of people thought they would. Obviously having core pillar players want to be somewhere is that's important for any team. You want players who want to be there, and the commitment from Scheifele and Hellebuck just saying, hey, I do want to be here, makes the job of Kevin Cheveldayoff that much easier. But it is the play of this team in general. They are deep. This is a deep team up front. As much as some of you don't want to admit it, they are. And even without, Kyle Connor being there, the Nikolai Ehlers are going to be able to keep up with it. Vladislav Nemestikov on the second line is acting like he deserves to be there, right? The Nino Niederreiters of the world deserve to be there. Cole Perfetti is having what I believe to be a much better season. He's slowly getting into the pace of where he needs to be. So this is a really good hockey team. And the numbers that really stand out, yes, it's important to win at home. They also went on the road. They're 9-4-1 on the road. So they play well outside when they leave. That's good. And the Winnipeg Jets as a team, again, on paper, they are in a high, the two teams above them can score goals. No one has to tell anybody that the Colorado Avalanche are really good at scoring goals. But in a plus, their differential in goals scored versus goals given up of those three teams, they sit at the top, right? They're a plus 20 differential. They have 99 goals scored, 79 allowed. Dallas, as good as they've been, they've given up 95. Colorado's given up 99. So those are two fun teams to watch, but they go back and forth a lot. And it's a lot of high-scoring affairs, and it's not games that you want to be in. Super fun for us as fans to watch because I love watching Colorado and Nathan McKinnon just slide around the ice there and Cale Makar just, bar down and everything. Great. But the Winnipeg Jets are building themselves as a team that come playoff time will look a lot better than what we saw out of them last year, because last year they just pretended they showed up and then played 4 periods and said, okay, we'll pack our stuff and go home. This is a team that looks dramatically different. They're really good on ice. I mean, like, they might be for real. I don't know if they'll be able to compete with Dallas and Colorado all year, right? They're 1 point off being atop of the Central. Central's going to be real tight up in that top spot. I don't know if anybody else is really going to challenge those 3 spots.
Not division.
No. I mean, Minnesota is the only hope, but they've got a long way to go. But this is a team that has a legitimate chance at finishing at the top of that division. And we all thought they may be sellers at the deadline. So kudos to the Winnipeg Jets. They can get thermal socks if they want. Pay up a little bit here. It's cold.
You need it up in Winnipeg. You definitely need the thermals up there.
That's it. Go north of Minnesota in January. Yeah, you're gonna might need some thermal socks.
Hellebuck was thought to have going to be traded at the beginning of the season. And once that wasn't going to happen, they thought maybe it would be with a floundering Jets team. And instead of that, he decided to sign back on. He believed in the team. Scheifele did as well. And that I had a feeling once those two signed that would make a difference. That yes, if these two guys are all in, then, the rest of us, have something to play for as well. And look at what they've done. They're 1 point out of the division lead and have been playing, well all season long. And I like the move of Iafallo as well as Vilardi from the Kings, who I thought played well there too. So this is a team that could possibly make some moves here. But like you said, with the tough Stars team and the Avalanche, who've kind of had a little rough spell over the last 10 games, but I don't think that they'll fall too far apart. So you got the Stars, Avalanche, and Jets top of there. Looks good to me. I like that. I like the socks you're giving them.
I mean, I don't know if I would have given them socks just because it seems like Scheifele and a Hellebuck could easily afford to buy a whole sock factory for the team. But one thing, we talk about this carousel at the top with Colorado, Dallas, and Winnipeg. When I was looking at their schedules, the 2 times Winnipeg has played Dallas, they've lost to Dallas. But the 2 times they played Colorado, they've beaten Colorado. And then the 1 time that Dallas and Colorado played, I believe Dallas beat Colorado. So, yeah, so it's like kind of like a little 3-way thing going on right now for no, they lost to Colorado. So there you go. It's a little 3-way boom, boom. Those 3.
I'm worried about the Colorado Avalanche. Specifically,
You are
Alexander
not.
Gorgiev. I am, especially Alexander Gorgiev. I own him in a pool. And every time he steps onto the ice, I think he forgets that he is slowly entering Martin Jones territory. And that's not where you want to hang out. You do not want to have the wins, high total wins, the low losses, and then looking at every single meaningful number outside of that. I know goals against average save percentage are sometimes a team number, but goals saved above expected. He is not doing what he needs to do. I would not. I'm just throwing that because I'm looking. Those 3 teams are going to compete. But it wouldn't shock me if Colorado ends up being the 3rd team there, right? Dallas, I just think, is way too deep. I think the Winnipeg Jets have it figured out. And if you don't have goaltending in that division, you're going to really struggle. Jake Ottinger is elite. Connor Hellebuck's won a Vezina. I'm waiting for Alexander Gorgiev to figure out that he has to put his body in front of the puck. That'd be kind of fun.
One other thing to keep in mind here, too, Cale Makar, he's been dealing with some nagging injuries on and off. So they're going to be very careful with him. They're going to give him the time. So not having him in the lineup, even if it's for 2-3 game spurts here and there, that's going to have its impact too for them. So they're the teams that are going to be getting some cozy or not cozy socks if you're Brady Tkachuk for the holidays. Now it's time to disappoint some people. And somebody's going to be getting some coal. And, we don't like that. But, sometimes you have to send the message. Let's start with, mine is going to be the same as Anthony. So I'll set the table and then I'll let him go off on Mr. Meyer. But Timo made me look like a fool to people like Anthony and Mr. Jared Moore. Like, hey, I watched this guy in San Jose for the last few years, ever since I moved out to Northern California. You're going to love him. He's streaky was the one thing I said is when he goes cold, and when he goes hot, he goes super hot. But it's 5 goals, 6 assists. When is it going to be Timo time?
Yeah, Timo time has not even started yet. It is frustrating with Timo because they signed that big contract extension, and you would actually not notice Timo if this defense played well and had good goaltending because the offense has been very good, and he gets lost in the shuffle. He was thought out to be one of the top players in fantasy, like drafting from the Devils. I was looking at getting Jack Hughes and then taking Timo to stack the 2, and that would have been a mistake because Timo has shown us nothing. And it kind of reminds me of Jonathan Huberdeau first year with Calgary because, like you said, I was like, we're waiting. I've been waiting, waiting to see when he's going to get on a hot streak, score a bunch load of goals, and it hasn't happened. 5 goals, 6 assists on that contract extension that he got. That's not good. Not good at all. And it's been very disappointing. Hopefully the change of the new year or whatever brings something out of him. But man, it has been a struggle to watch him play, and he's lost in the shuffle. Lost in the shuffle. He should be one of the top 3 players on that team right now, and he's just not. He's one of the bottom feeders.
And Tyler Toffoli, when that was another big signing. He's doing what you needed. That's almost masking it even more. So like, what now? You got to go sign 2 decent wingers to compensate for 1. That's off to a terrible start. I mean, there's still a whole lot of hockey left. Timo comes out in January and plays the way we all seen him play when he's playing well in San Jose. This is a distant memory. It's forgotten about. But the Devils can definitely, as much as they need help with goaltending and defense, having a guy like Meyer providing more offensive punch would certainly help mask those deficiencies at least a little bit more.
Yeah, it would definitely help them outscore some of these teams where they don't have to lose 6-5 or 4-3. But it's a long way to go in this season with the Devils. Very frustrating to watch this up and down thing take place. And I'll be there for Thursday's game. And hopefully we don't have I think they're playing Edmonton, if I'm correct. So that should be a fun shootout.
Hopefully, yeah. That's got a game that's got overwritten all over. Yes, they've got the Edmonton Oilers at home Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern. Where are you on that Meyer network, Chris? I mean, like, you thought as much as, maybe you weren't, giddy about him the way that me and Anthony were, but you were high on him coming into the year, and it's been a disappointment.
In the FSGA league that I'm in, I'm a non-proud owner of Timo Meyer, and it has not gone well.
And you can't drop him. Like, you can't drop him. Like, he's just taking a roster spot right now. He's a guy that went from being like bona fide, you're playing him at left or right wing, wherever you got the eligibility in the spot, to he's a guy that gets, if I have a league where it's him or Owen Tippett, and I'm like, I think I'm going Owen Tippett tonight. That should not be the case.
For Timo Meyer now, it's become a little bit like the song by the Fall Out Boys. It's like, sugar, we're going down swinging. Like, now we're committed together. Like, that's it. Like, we ride or die together. There's no, like, I'm not giving up on him because he plays for the New Jersey Devils, and the Devils are a good team that can score goals, ideally. So I wish he would figure it out. Because it just seems like when he was in San Jose, it's like things were working when it shouldn't have. And now he's come over to New Jersey, and it's like, well, what's happening? And we understand that, like, there were in San Jose, he was the guy who was shooting the puck all the time. He was the guy with the puck on his stick all the time. He was, and now he's in New Jersey, and there's others around there, but those players can help elevate your game. It takes some of that pressure off from you as well. You don't have to shoulder all that responsibility. He can be part of a team and still hit every number. But a lot of people were applauding him recently because he finished one game with 6 shots on goal, and I'm like, cool. There was a time in life where that was your minimum. Like, that was why we were paying $8K on DraftKings for you, because we knew the 6 shots were coming no matter what. Now it's like we're doing a victory lap because you're doing what we expect you to do. So it has been frustrating to be a Timo Meyer owner. It must be worse being a New Jersey Devils fan and having to watch Timo Meyer play.
Maybe Anthony will get to witness the turnaround tomorrow. Maybe that'll be maybe you're what they need. Maybe just Timo needs to see you in the building.
Stuart Skinner has the worst goals saved above expected number. So the good news is Stuart Skinner is allowing a lot of goals. I guess if there's any good time to turn your season around, it would be against Edmonton's poor goaltending.
Now, your lump of coal is going to a guy that Anthony mentioned a little while ago.
It is. He's getting the whole coal. He could decide if he wants it in English or in French. But Jonathan Huberdeau has been an absolute mess. And I think we kind of forgot that he was once a really good player. He got paid at the right time. And the Florida Panthers said, all right, well, you can go enjoy life in Calgary if you want. You can leave, the beach and have fun in Calgary and do whatever you want to do there. But he is in his first year of his $10.5 million deal for 8 seasons. This is year 1, right? So last year was still the tail end of his $5.9 million contract, and $5.9 million for 55 points isn't worth it. I guarantee you $10.5 million for 15 points is not good value. It is not great. Huberdeau has exactly 4 goals this year. He's played 32 games, right? 15 points. So he's got 11 assists. He's not a player who's taking a bunch of penalties. It doesn't matter. We know he doesn't throw his weight around. There's no worry to there. I know the plus minus stat is a meaningless stat in every single, whether it's real life hockey or fantasy hockey or whatnot. But when you stick out like a sore thumb, a little bit of that problem is probably you. He's a minus 14. Like, he's not. It's a problem because the rest of the team is not as bad as you. So why do you stick out on a team that is just meh kind of thing? And the Calgary Flames need him to be a solution because right now he's the problem. He's the whole problem. He is not doing what he needs to do. He is not playing in the top 6 either, right? Right. So Daily Faceoff has him skating on the 3rd line. He is not on the top power play unit. He's on the 2nd unit. So this is a man that you went out, and I understand that, Matthew Tkachuk didn't want to be there. So you got back what you thought was, good value, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But you got rewarded with money, a lot of it. And this is year 1 of it. He collected $7 million as a signing bonus, right? On the past July 1st, he collected. He's going to collect another handsome amount again once July 1st comes. So at some point, I don't know when Jonathan Huberdeau is going to figure out that like can you buy out a player after 1 year or half a year through his it's not what we want to be doing here. But he is a liability in his own zone. And one thing a coach once told me is, and he said, Chris, if you're not going to score goals, you're going to be good defensively. And look, am I doing either of those in my Thursday league? No, but I'm also not collecting $10.5 million, and we play at 10:15 at night. So there is a different reality here. Jonathan Huberdeau has to figure it out. He has to sit down with himself, and he has to say, hey, I am the problem. The first step of Delulu is figuring out that you are the problem. That's the first one. That's the first step, is acceptance. And I don't know what he's got to do. Maybe he can, find his way to Toronto, because Brad Treliving decided that was the money they wanted to give him. Then he took off. But and I just don't know what he like Huberdeau's tenor right now in Calgary has not been good, and he is he's on pace for less points than last season, and he's making $10.5 million. You can't even trade him. Where are you going? Where are you sending him? We can't even send him to Arizona anymore because they're not taking bad contracts. Where is he going? Ugh.
You know what? You've sold me that he is the guy that absolutely deserves a lump of coal in his stocking, probably more than Timo Meier. At least Meier's
you can't even go to San Jose. I'm sure they don't even want him. They're like, man, we can't really give you anything for him. He is worthless at this point. As a famous man once said, my contract is terrible. Right? Shout out to Roberto Luongo. This man's contract is terrible, and he has nobody to blame but himself. Nobody. He has showed it because remember, Daryl Sutter was the problem. Daryl Sutter's not there anymore, and I don't know, the problem's still there. So we got to find a new diagnosis, and I think it's the player. I think that's the problem. He has just been a mess.
I mean, they want to blame Daryl Sutter. 31 points 5 days before Christmas. You're telling me you'd be worse with Sutter? Come on now.
Look, this man's got 15 points and he's collecting $10.5 million. Something's not right.
All right, so Jonathan Huberdeau is not going to be happy Christmas morning. Now it's time to hand some coal out to some teams before we do sweater weather and wrap things up here on Bettor Hockey Now on Fantasy Alarm YouTube and Bettor Sports Network YouTube. I will start with the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is another team or player that made me look foolish. This is what I get for trying to be positive about a Pittsburgh-based sports team. I don't really like Pittsburgh teams. The Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates are pathetic, so who cares about them? But and listen, I didn't think that the Penguins were going to win the division. I thought they would be a team that would be firmly in a playoff spot, and then, come playoff time, experience prevails, and maybe they could win the conference and go deep that way. But this is a year where, okay, fine, the Rangers are dominating. They're clearly the number one team right now. It's a mishmash after that. It is for the taking. We just talked about how the Flyers are sitting there in second and the Islanders in third. It's up for grabs right now. And now, today I saw that, Kyle Dubas may be considering trading Erik Karlsson. I don't know if that's just, talk fodder to, maybe motivate him a little bit, but he did say he's going to be evaluating the Penguins over the next month here and could make some decisions and changes at that point. So basically they could be really active at the deadline and Karlsson could be that guy. And, again, maybe they just are an older team that'll get going come January, February, March, but this is not where we had the Penguins at this point in the season. So get it together. But though that being said, still only 4 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, I thought they would be a whole lot better than they are now, at least in maybe a point behind a playoff spot or in a playoff spot. But, having to jump the Devils, the Capitals, the Hurricanes, even the Islanders, and now the Flyers are a part of the mix. That's a tough task. That reevaluating that he's going to be doing should definitely think about selling at this point, because I don't see them making the playoffs at all. They can go on a run. They have the players and they have the experience to do it, but I don't see it happening. Their stars are another year older, and they are a flawed team that I don't know. I don't see them being better than the Devils at the end of this season, or even the Hurricanes. You look, the three teams that we thought were going to be at the top of the Metro Division was the Rangers, Hurricanes, and the Devils. Now you got to throw the Islanders, who were in the playoffs last year and have been a consistent playoff contender, and now you can throw the Flyers in the mix, who have found new life. So yeah, the Penguins are out of it for me. I agree, Cole, on them.
Yeah, it's absolutely unacceptable for this team to be this bad. We can't even blame Tristan Jarry because he's not the problem. The problem, he has been good, which is, if anybody was going to let down the Penguins, I would put my money on Tristan Jarry to do so. This is a team that at multiple times this year have led the NHL in shots. They are below average in goals per game. Their power play stinks. And there is so much talent on this team. So you say, okay, well, you figured out that you can shoot the puck. What part don't you understand about putting it in the net? And there are, again, more than enough talent. There's more than enough talent on this team to figure out how to put a puck in the net. Like, it's not hard. It's not rocket science. So this power play is, I don't know why it doesn't work. I mean, there's skill everywhere. There are players going to the Hall of Fame and they're all on the ice at the same time, so they can figure that out. But right now, this is an underperforming team. They are bad and they have nobody to blame but themselves. Not a coaching problem, right? Because at some point, finish. And to a certain extent, Sidney Crosby has done exactly that. He has been a bright spot on this team. So we need the rest of the gang kind of come along here and figure it out. Erik Karlsson being one of them. Letang's numbers are not what they are. Gino has not gotten hurt yet. So, I mean, take that. Yeah, it's on its way. He's going to, I don't know, slip on a patch of ice. Unfortunate. But again, this team has to be better. They are better than what they are right now. There is no reason for them to be behind the eight ball the way that they are. I understand they're putting in effort, or at least they think they are, and the metrics say that they are doing so. But I mean, there's no reason, like I said, for their power play to be this bad and for them to be unable to score goals.
For what it's worth, the Sharks power play, when they first got Karlsson and Burns together, people thought like, oh my God, this is going to be a lethal power play, and they could not make it work with the two of them on the ice together either. So something to be said there. And if Kyle Dubas is saying, okay, January is really going to be our month of evaluation here. I mean, you look at the schedule for them. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole month, but it's a good mix of teams that are going to be right there with them in their own division. You got Vancouver, you got Vegas, so they got a nice mix to see where they're at, to see if okay, we're back on track. We're going to fortify this team down the stretch here and go for it, or if it's time to start parting the Penguins out. So that's my team. And where are you going for yours? I think we talked a little bit about them earlier and just how atrocious they are.
Yeah, I don't know how much more can be said about the Ottawa Senators. 11-16, only have 22 points. Their goal differential is a -2. And then you look at the two teams above them: Sabres -20, Canadians -19. And how are they not ahead of those two teams at the very least? This is a team, like I said, I'm just repeating what I've said earlier, but this is a team that we all had higher hopes for, and definitely not to be this bad if they were going to be bad. But they have just been awful. They're bottom of the barrel, and they are getting a whole lot of cold. You know what? Brady Tkachuk might get coal in one of his socks.
Oh, wow. That's like a double. That's like a slap in the face. Here's some crappy ass sock or socks, and now we're going to put a lump of coal in one of them, and now you're going to stretch that crappy sock out. One's going to be bigger than the other, and it's just never going to feel right from the start.
Yeah, he's not absent from this mess. He's not going to escape it. So he might get a coal, maybe just a coal in one of the socks, not on both, just one sock of coal for Tkachuk there. But this team is awful. Absolutely awful.
Well, I would imagine the coal, the soot that comes off the coal would probably make the sock probably, gray or black and kind of ruin it too. So I mean, it's sending a subtle message.
Yeah, you got to send a message to what is supposed to be one of your top players, and if he gets the message, maybe everybody else will.
Now,
Here's
Chris,
the thing with Ottawa, just before we move on, they are 3-7 in their last 10. They've lost 5 in a row. They made a coaching change. They were up 3-0 against
that drove me
Arizona.
nuts last night.
3-0.
Yeah, blew
I
that
know. Some people were taking victory laps because I was like, I'm not trusting the Ottawa Senators. Or like, it seems like anytime it seems like a team should win, that's when they're not going to win. Do the exact opposite. Somebody asked me my opinion and said, hey, do you think this, it's a good spot? I was like, man, I don't trust Ottawa at all. And then they were up 3-0. And I was like, nah, man, I'm really not looking smart. And then I woke up this morning, saw that they lost 4-3 and said, oh, it's the Ottawa Senators. Got you. That's the Ottawa Senators summed up for their season. This is a team that's up 3-0, new coach ish behind the bench, and they just can't figure it out. So
they cannot. And I was, if you follow a trend in sports, usually when coaches get fired in season, teams will usually win the next game. Gave that pick out on Better Sports Betting, because it worked for Minnesota, worked for Edmonton. So far, the trend was 2-0. So it's like, all right. And it looked good for, a little while. And then, like you said, you check the score later and it's like, what the hell happened? So there you go. Ottawa getting that lump of coal. Now, Chris is going to keep it north of the border here for his team that's getting a lump of coal. And who's that going to be?
It's the Edmonton Oilers. Congratulations, Edmonton. I still don't think you're a player. We were told that Edmonton went on this miniature run at one point where they looked really good, right? They came in and McDavid was McJesus again. So he was doing most of the damage. Draisaitl was unstoppable. I mean, Zach Hyman was, we're career numbers here. We're floating. Like we're feeling good about ourselves, like they're back, baby. They are. And then they've proceeded to lose 3 in a row after that nice little run. And they have not looked very good. And it's the same problems for the Edmonton Oilers. And it's always their goaltending. And like I said, Stuart Skinner has the worst goals saved above expected. He is a problem. He is not the solution. He is the problem. He should not be allowing as many goals as he does. And yet he's doing that. We talked about teams that are really good and what they have. They are built from the back end out. There is no question that we know that the Edmonton Oilers are built the opposite way. This is a team that is heavy up front, specifically on their top 2 lines. Their bottom 2 lines are what they are. Defensively, this is not a team built to play defense. And if their goalies can't stop pucks, then it doesn't matter. Like Calvin Pickard's on an NHL roster. Nothing against
that should
him.
not be the case.
Absolutely not. Great man. I'm sure he pays his taxes. He can get a pair of socks if he wants just because he exists. But like the Edmonton Oilers, this is a team that you are trying to. I'm not saying anybody's going to want to leave here, but there are guys who are going to need money at some point, and then you got to convince them that they want to be here after that. So like Draisaitl's got 1 more year after this year. Connor McDavid's got 2 more after this year. So you got to convince these players in their prime ish, right? Like Draisaitl's 28. When he gets the time and he's got to sign a deal, he's going to be 30. So he can still pick up 1 more bag before, riding off into the sunset. But you got to convince these 2 players that they want to stick around here. And all you've given them is disappointment, and not to their fault at all. No, this has nothing to do with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's not it. You haven't surrounded them with quality. You haven't done so. You haven't given them anything. And it has to do nothing with the players up front, because they said, okay, well, you got, Zach Hyman and Evander Kane and Ryan Nugent. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've done there. You cannot defend. This is a team that is not built to defend. They have zero responsibility in their own zone. They just don't. You can change coaches. You can go on that mini run, like we said, where we change coaches. All of a sudden, everything they say you buy into, and you run through brick walls for them. But at the end of the day, this is a poor hockey team. And again, they are not a playoff team. They are not. This is not going to happen. So, like, I know some of us are trying to cling to stuff. You can cling to nothing, and it's still nothing. This is a team that employs Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, Vincent Desharnais. These are bottom level guys who are playing like 15 minutes a night, and that's all you got to get out of them. But the rest of that squad is just not good. it is what it is, Oilers fans. But if you miss the playoffs, like where do we go from here? We got money tied up in guys that we don't need money tied up. And like the bottom six is going to rotate, but that's not the problem because we don't have any money to really go out and spend. We got no money. We have nothing at the cap. Like at the deadline, they're going to have $238,333 according to the good friends on Cap Friendly. Like you can't even buy a house with that. So I can't imagine them going out getting anything of value to improve this team. They are a disgrace. I mean, just the whole province of Alberta, just ship them off somewhere else. Take Jonathan Huberdeau with you. Take the Oilers defense and just go to another planet.
When they lost Gretzky, at least they had a few cups by then. There was no, he wasn't going to be able to stay there. They couldn't afford him, but at least he delivered. McDavid, and it's not to say it's on him, but McDavid may, who knows if he ever gets a chance to win there? Because, like you said, basically the only gift they ever got from McDavid was Draisaitl, and the only gift they ever got for Draisaitl was McDavid, and that's it. And that's a good gift, but if you want to win a cup, it's got to be more than just one under the tree. It's got to be more than that. So. We'll see. Well, and this is a good road trip coming up for them. They already played the Islanders. They got Anthony's Devils tomorrow night at the Rangers. Then they come out and do the 3 California teams before heading home to face the aforementioned Flyers. So you got a mix of good teams, bad teams, middle of the road teams. We'll see how they match up here over the next few games and see if they can maybe get back on track. Had an 8-game winning streak, now a 3-game losing streak. So we'll see what happens there. So we've handed out our coal. We've handed out our socks. We've handed out our bikes. Now it's time for our weekly sweater weather. And this week, we wanted to do, holiday themed jerseys. So, perused the internet, found a Rockford Ice Hogs jersey. That's their older logo, but nonetheless, still pretty good there. You got the ugly Christmas sweater going on. And then they got the logo with the candy cane in the mouth as opposed to a hockey stick there. And then on the right side, soft spot for me because I happen to live in the hometown of Charles Schultz, the creator and cartoonist of the Peanuts. The Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs of the Southern Professional Hockey League, going with the Charlie Brown. You got Snoopy and Woodstock there with the Christmas lights on the doghouse with the trees and the snow. Really looking good there, incorporating the team colors. So you could only buy one of those jerseys. Which one are we getting? Let's start with Mr. Rivera.
I love Peanuts. I love Snoopy, but that Rockford Ice Hogs jersey, that ugly sweater, and even you look at the logo, the original logo, and then how they just switched it up by putting a candy cane in there. I think that one best exemplifies the Christmas spirit along with their logo matching somewhat. Whereas the Snoopy one, it's dogs and all that stuff, but I don't know. If I can only choose one, I am going with the Rockford Ice Hogs.
Chris, what are we purchasing here? What are we wearing for your next Thursday night game?
Got it. Anthony's take is wrong. That's one. Two, it is definitely the Yard Dogs one. You have Snoopy on a jersey with the whole Peanuts and everything. If it's not Christmas without Charlie Brown, right? So that's an easy slam dunk, like way out of the ballpark kind of thing. Empty net goal. That's it. I get the Ice Hog one is nice. Yes, the candy cane play on it is it's got the ugly Christmas vibe sweater, but nobody really wants to wear an ugly Christmas sweater. You kind of do because you get roped into it. I would wear the Yard Dogs one. I would I'm sure if I looked on the internet, see if I could buy one, somebody's trying to scalp and gouge me out of like a couple of grand out of it because why wouldn't you? But no, that is wonderful. The play on words with the dogs and everything. Just, I love it. That is great. That's good for the Southern Professional Hockey.
So I guess I'm the tiebreaker here. And for all the reasons Anthony said, it makes perfect sense. It's got the embodiment of the Christmas holiday with the ugly sweater and the green and the red and the logo incorporating and all that. But you're speaking to a guy right now that's got some Peanuts and Snoopy Christmas lights in his front lawn decorations right now. So I got to go with the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs here. I'm going to go with the Snoopy jersey. I think I love the creativity behind it. It looks cool. And there's a lot of different, variations of ugly Christmas sweater jerseys and stuff like that. They did their own spin on it. So good for them. Maybe they have a little more flexibility in a semi-professional league versus in a sanctioned official AHL minor league of the NHL kind of thing. But yeah, I'm going with Snoopy there. I'm going to go with the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs. So shout out to them with an awesome team name as well. The Rail Yard Dogs. That's not a team I want to mess with.
That is the correct take as well. That is everything about it. There's
regular dog, maybe not a Rail Yard Dog.
Rail Yard Dog, Charlie Brown, like that. It's the marketing team there. They got it right. Sometimes we see marketing, we see some commercials, we see some things, and we're like, it's probably an intern that came up with that idea. It's 4:00 on a Friday. We're like, send it. We'll see what we get. Nah, that is the executive marketing director coming in there with the hot idea, probably getting the trademark approval as well for it, and then rolling it out there.
All the T's were crossed and I's were dotted on that for that one, for sure.
Yes, it was. Well done to them.
Now, yes, this has been fun. We've had the three of us have acted like Santa. We've handed out our presents, some better than others, but nonetheless, everybody deserved what they got here on Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. But we've got one episode left in the year 2023 before we flip the calendars to 2024, which is arguably the best time of the year for hockey. January, February, March. That's when we start to have some separation from the pack and have some really good games. So looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to chatting with you fellas one more time here in 2023. But for Mr. Christopher Morais at Fuzzy Chris 91, for Anthony Rivera at Ant Rivera 86 on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I'm at Pucking Thoughts. We'll be back with you next week here on BHN, on BSN, and Fantasy Alarm.
Bettor Hockey Now is on the Bettor Sports Network.